Hager, President of the Bismarck School Board. It's 5:15 on Monday, September 22nd. I call this meeting to order. Welcome to those of you who are joining us both here and also online. You can find our agenda and follow along under the School Board tab at bismarckschools.org. Item A, roll call. Dr. Scher, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hager?
Here.
Mr. Eastgate?
Here.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mrs. Peterson?
Here.
Ms. Presky?
Here.
Dr. Fosnot, would you lead us in the pledge? Item 1C is BPS mission, vision, and values. The BPS mission is to empower every learner to thrive. The BPS vision states, together, our strong relationships build inclusive, collaborative, and innovative environments that create agency and inspire a passion for learning, excellence, and discovery. BPS values are inclusion, excellence, innovation, leadership. You'll also find a link in the agenda to the BPS strategic plan. Item 2 is to adopt the agenda. What are the wishes of the board? Mr. Lee.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Dr. Scher, roll, please.
Eastgate?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Presky?
Yes.
Hager?
Yes. Item 3, focus on success. Kind of a fun topic. AP dual credit updates.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Fosnot.
Good afternoon, board members. I'd like to introduce or invite to the podium Dr. Ben Johnson, who will invite his team tonight. We have some representatives not only from BPS, but Bismarck State College.
Thank you, President Hager and Dr. Fosnot. We're excited to share with you about how Bismarck Public Schools dual credit program is transforming opportunities for students. The promise and the reality of dual credit for us is where a high school student isn't just preparing for college, but they're beginning college while in high school. They're earning genuine college credits before they even graduate high school. For students, this means saving time and money. For families, it means less tuition, a head start on higher education. For our community, it means more skilled and confident graduates ready to enter the workforce and succeed beyond that. Today, our team will walk through how the dual credit program works at Bismarck Public Schools with representatives from Bismarck State College. It's how we're structured, the benefits, challenges, and how we support students with real outcomes and faculty and school partnerships, as well as considering paths forward and where we might look to provide a greater access and success for students. I hope you have a deep understanding at the end how this is a powerful catalyst for us to reach that mission and vision of empowering every learner to thrive by providing that educational access and achievement in our district. First up will be Mr. Mather.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, President Hager, members of the board. I get to start off talking a little bit about the history. I think that's because I got chosen to be old. But honestly, I was a classroom teacher back in the late 90s, early 2000s when some of the dual credit conversations started to take place. And so I remember sitting around a room up on the BSC campus talking about what is it in the BPS curriculum, what is it in the curriculum and some of the offerings at Bismarck State College. And so that's when we first started to have some of these dual credit discussions. Initially, we had just a couple classes that we offered. It was the speech and the college algebra. And then in around 2010, that started to expand. And while we were expanding that, we then quickly ran into a change in the Higher Learning Commission standards that requires a teacher to have a content major or a master's degree and 18 credits beyond that. And so what we found is we had a number of faculty who had been doing some of the dual credit that were no longer able to. Well, in the past few years, we've had an increase in the number of teachers that have been able to do that. We've also, as a district, helped support those plans for our teachers to get highly qualified in that area, and then have been working with our partnership with BSC to get teachers on some credentialing plans, and they've been able to work with a number of our faculty. And as you'll see on the next slide, it's resulted in some exponential growth. And so as you can see here, and I said it was in 2010 that we increased it, then we backed off. And so our reality pre-pandemic in 2020, 2021, you can see in blue is the number of dual credit courses that we were offering, and that really attributed to the number of people that we had in our buildings that met the qualification standards under the Higher Learning Commission. And then the number of AP offerings that we had. And so that's what it looked like pre-2021, and this actual current year, this is what that number looks like. And so as you can see, the total number of offerings for both dual credit and AP have increased over that time. And then if you look at the actual enrollment, if we look at 2020, 2021, this is the unique number of students. And so how many kids are sitting in those seats? And you can see where it's at in 2020, 2021, and then where it's at in 25, 26. And so it's more than 2 times growth, sometimes even approaching 3 times the growth as far as the number of students that are engaging in that. And so the next slide, I'll turn it over to Karen Erickson, who will talk a little bit about unique students and their enrollment at BSC and how that's changed over the last 5 years.
So my name is Karen Erickson, as Mr. Madler already said, but I serve as the Dean of Enrollment Management at Bismarck State College. And with me, I have Ashley Matson, who serves as our advisor for all of our dual credit programs and coordinates the dual credit programs. And then I have Dr. Kim Wiseman, who oversees all of our general education and the academic area and works heavily with the faculty that we're hiring from within the high school. So dual credit, we just really wanted to thank you for having us here today to speak with you about the dual credit program, because it's a program that we really believe it changes lives. At the heart, dual credit is a benefit for one reason, and one reason only, and that's to benefit our students. Dual credit is a huge benefit for our students. We offer dual credit to students, and our students do win. They gain access to college-level courses while still in high school. They save valuable time. They save money on their path to a degree or even their next career. And even more importantly, they gain confidence, they gain experience, and they head toward they get a great start on meeting their future goals. So this is more than just a program. Dual credit is really an investment, and it's an investment in the students within this area. It's a great investment within the students at Bismarck Public Schools. And so we're really excited to share with you a little bit about how dual credit is making a difference and why we're so thankful that we have this partnership.
Hello, my name is Ashley Matson, and I serve as the Dual Credit Coordinator and Academic Advisor for our BPS Dual Credit students. So up on the slide, if you take a look, we do have our BSC Dual Credit student head count by the 3 high schools from 2020 up to 2025. So it's just really exciting to see the jump from 2020 to 2025. Showing this means we're giving these students so many more opportunities to get college classes done while still in high school, saving them time and money. So what I do is I help out the students with getting registered in the process. For a student to become eligible to take dual credit, they must be a sophomore, junior, or senior in high school and have at least a 2.0 GPA. They then enroll into BSC as an early entry student, and they get the same benefits as a BSC college student as well. They can attend our sporting events for free, attend our homecoming, get a student ID, get the discounts around town. So really treating them as that true college student as well. And then we help them with the enrollment process by going into all of the schools and helping them enroll in those courses. Then I will turn it over to Kim, Dr. Kim Wiseman.
So on the slide, you can see how this really shows the earned credits that the students are achieving during their time at BPS, but also while they're at school at Bismarck State. And you'll notice that we saw a significant jump from 2022 to where we currently are now. In some cases, you might notice that there was a small decrease. Part of that is because we are adhering to the Higher Learning Commission standards for accreditation. Most instructors at the BPS level are very good about getting qualified to what they need. There's a few who maybe are nearing retirement and just didn't want to spend that extra money, which we can understand. So ultimately, though, we're still seeing a lot of growth. We're working with your instructors to make sure that they become our instructors too. And so then they are able to offer the students a variety of different classes and opportunities throughout their coursework. And in fact, I just met with one today about how can he get more credentials so he can continue to teach dual credit. So with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Phillips. Or was it you? Sorry. Mr. Wistoff, sorry.
Good evening, board. And I get the fun slide, just to show the economic impact on our families. And I think that's one of the best things about dual credit is, we're looking at $89 per credit for students when they take it at the high school level. And that $295 is just an average of what it costs at the universities themselves. And so at $295, and so it's a huge savings for our families. And the other thing this doesn't account in the handouts you have, BSC put together, like when you figure room and board into those credits too, and if you have kids in college right now, you're feeling that. And so just a real service to our students and our families. And the Bank of North Dakota has some scholarships to help with free and reduced. So maybe kids where there's a financial hardship where they'll step in. But 1.8 million is what we feel the savings have been for BPS families. Now I think Mr. Phillips is up.
Dave said he gets the fun slide. I get the fun slide. My name is Thomas Schmidt, Principal of Legacy High School in Bismarck. So I'd like to, before I talk about the success stories, I'd like to make sure we do a special thank you. Dr. Wiseman mentioned the credits that teachers need to go ahead and get to be certified and to keep their accreditation up. Most of those credits that our teachers are getting are paid for by Title II. So there's huge fear this summer. I'm sure you all remember that about losing Title II and Title IV. So a special thank you to the board, Dr. Fosnot, Mr. Scheer, Dr. Johnson, Mr. Barnhart about going ahead and making sure to secure those funds. It's been a huge get for the district to go ahead and keep those teachers certified. Also, a huge thank you to our teaching staff who this hasn't been forced upon them to teach dual credit. This is something else in addition to what they're doing. And the willingness to step up and provide more opportunities for our kiddos across the district is very commendable. On the board, you see a success story. And there's many stories similar to this, but this one's pretty unique in the opportunity that Calais Schultz has. Calais Schultz is a legacy grad of class of 2025. He is currently serving his LDS mission in Brazil, doing a 2-year mission. Prior to his leaving for Brazil, he was delayed entry into Purdue University for engineering. But because he had his associate's degree already from BSC, he'll be able to enter Purdue in 2 years as a junior and be in class with his cohort. So he'll be not missing any of his schooling. He'll be right on track for graduation like any other student would be. Plus, he gets to go ahead and do his mission without having any impact on his academic career. Mr. Phillips now, I think, is up. Is it Mr. Phillips? This one's me. Oh, there we go. This is the legacy students from 2025 spring graduation. And correct me if I'm mistaken this year, but I believe we have, I want to say 13, Ashley, that are on track. I think we have 13 students this year who are going to be on track to get their associates prior to the end of the school year.
So we're highlighting our work with Bismarck State College, and also of note that there's been some combined work with the University of Mary as well. But when we look at this, one of the programs that we've talked about is growing our own teachers. And so we know that many of you are very familiar with our peer-to-peer program. That is one opportunity to provide students who might be looking into education, but we're also teaching intro to education methods courses. Mr. Madler worked with Mrs. or Dr. Madler, Billy, his wife, and we have intro to nursing courses. Again, those things intersect with Mr. Pat Phillips' world as well, but we're looking at opportunities where we can continue to show where students can have that growth opportunity to be able to provide, whether it's through a local college or a local private university. Again, great partners, kids win in the end. But I'll pass this on to Mr. Phillips to talk a little bit about another aspect of dual credit regarding CTE.
So, Lastly, I guess one more opportunity that Bismarck students have is the idea of articulation agreements. And these are actually a really wonderful opportunity for students to take an even deeper dive into a passion or an interest area and get ahead. We currently have articulation agreements with Bismarck State College in graphic design and electronics that allow students to articulate multiple credits and then enter into college at a specific level, saving them time and, again, more money, even significantly more than simply a dual credit offering would. And the thing that I would really like to call out here is the idea of this boosting not only students' engagement with their high school education and moving into post-secondary, but really in post-secondary perseverance and the completion of those degrees, which we know is also very important for our learners. So having said that, I hope you can see that together the idea of AP, dual credit, and articulation can create a comprehensive set of pathways for our students to succeed, not only while they're in high school, but also beyond high school in our K-14 collaborations. And with that, I believe we'll stand for questions.
Board members. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, President Hager. Yeah, big fan of the dual credit, big fan of our partnership with BSC. I mean, it's just been so fun to see. It's kind of interesting because right when BSC came on as a polytechnic institution, we started to expand our CTE, and it really wasn't by, well, some of it was by design, but how they fit together so nicely. So just appreciate all the work all of you have done. And one question I guess I had was on the articulation. It's probably for Pat. But is that made possible because of shared facilities, or could that be done otherwise?
Yeah, I think that could probably be done otherwise, but certainly our shared facilities and the proximity of those professors and students and teachers help students to make connections to what they're going to be doing at BSC and probably interests a lot more students than we would have otherwise.
Okay, yeah, and that's one thing that, that's really been unique about Bismarck Public Schools, and that started a long time ago, right? I think my brother in 1976 was taking welding up at BSC in a shared facility, but something that's grown organically, and I think it's such a positive aspect of how we do CTE that's quite different than how it's done around the state. So I don't want to lose that. Our partnership with BSC is just incredible. I like the exposure our kids get to BSC and the programming there and how much it's grown and how many fantastic things are going on. So yeah, it's just wonderful all around.
Mrs. Peterson.
I'm not sure who the best person out of this great crew that I see in front of me would be best served to answer this question, but how are the kids doing? And first of all, shout out to the counselors and everybody and you guys for supporting this. I know most of us sitting around here have children who have taken advantage of these opportunities, and I think it's amazing. But just in general, I mean, those courses have grown. They're taking multiple. I mean, I'm just thinking that just in general, how are the kids succeeding at the classes, and are they? Is it actually kind of lifting their abilities even in other coursework as well? That's not just dual credit. So just general comments. Thanks.
So Karen from BSC, we appreciate the question. Thank you. Your students, Bismarck Public Schools students, are doing very well. We see an extremely high pass rate from our classes, and it just goes to the preparedness that these students have when they're coming in. Also, many of the school counselors recommend students to take the courses based on their ability that they feel that they would have to succeed. And so we see a strong pass rate. These courses are very difficult and they can be challenging, but students, even if they're walking away with a C, they're earning college credit. If they're walking away with a B, they're earning college credit. And we have many students that received honor roll degrees or honor roll accolades this past year, and that's exciting to see as well. And so they do receive the dean's list early, and they can put that on their resumes, and we notify those students, and so that's another breaking point. But your pass rates are very high when we are looking at the student success.
Thank you.
Mr. Eastgate.
Yeah, thanks again, everybody on the team. Appreciate all the collaborating to make it all happen. Obviously, what jumps off the page in the report is the amazing growth and how many dual credit offering. I mean, at least that's what jumps off for me. Is that capped based on offerings at BSC, or is it based on teachers at BPS, or both? So.
We offer everything that kids sign up for, or we try to. The only thing that's limiting is, we go through, sometimes you'll have a faculty member that's retiring. And so if that faculty member retires and then all of a sudden we don't have somebody in the hopper that has that credential, we end up losing that program. Sure. Dave's a prime example. He had a science teacher that moved to my building. I didn't have AP Environmental Science because I didn't have a faculty credential. She comes to my building. I automatically am able to offer it. Dave's no longer able to offer it. And so those are some of the things that would be the limiting factor, but we try to offer as many sections as kids sign up for and have interest in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Ms. Presky.
Yeah, thank you guys for being here. This is just truly a wonderful program. A couple questions. One of the slides had, it showed a rise in the dual credits, and it was greater than the rise in AP. It was kind of one of the earlier slides. And I guess I'm just kind of curious, is that because students recognized, I think it maybe another one, that one right there. Like they flip-flopped in their growth. Like, so is that because the students themselves recognize the value and benefit of doing a dual credit over an AP, or what would you attribute that to?
The chart looks different, but we're comparing 13 to 14, 14 to 15. So it looks kind of skewed. The numbers are relatively constant. The AP offerings that we have, the only ones that we offer are ones that we know will be accepted by most universities for gen ed course requirements. And there's some other AP offerings that are out there that don't articulate very well to the collegiate level. So we've kind of stayed away from those. But as our dual credit has grown, have we seen fewer kids taking the AP exam? Yes. Have we seen a decline in enrollment in our AP? And that answer would be no, because a lot of our AP classes are now dual credit. And so kids will make the choice. Do I take the test for $90, or do I guarantee and have a college transcript that goes into a GPA, which has some different amounts of leverage depending on what the student's plans are?
And then just a clarification, I think it was said that there's 13 students on track to get their associate's degree in May. Is that of all the schools then, or?
Hi. So that would be for legacy at the moment. Okay. And so when these students are working on their associate's degree, they reach out to me, typically kind of through their counselor, and then I work with them to make sure that they are on track. Usually about their junior years when they reach out to me to just verify that they are indeed on track and making sure they don't need to take anything additional to meet those requirements. So right now that is legacy. They have a majority of the students that do the associate's degree. We have had students from BHS as well. We had one last year that also earned the associate's degree.
So then I guess 13 students right now in BPS that are tracking
Yes.
to get their associates.
Yep, that's
okay.
correct.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you, board members. Thank you all for presenting tonight. This is, as you can see, it's an exciting topic for us as well to hear you guys talk about it and show kind of the success stories that are going on within this district and continue to expand. So thank you all for being here. That moves us down to item 4, which is public comment. We had public comment at the last meeting, which will take some response to it now. But just ahead of that, just a reminder for folks in the room and folks that might be watching online, just kind of reiterate our practice is to listen during public comment and hear from the folks in the community, and then at the following meeting we respond to that public comment if a response is necessary. So that's kind of our process. So with that, I guess I'd turn over to Dr. Fosnot.
Yeah, thank you, President Hager, members of the board. I did have several questions after kind of reviewing the comments we had last meeting, just went through, kind of found the questions, and as you said, President Hager, kind of summarized some that we're repeating. We had some people who say the same thing, but I just wanted to kind of do my best to provide a response to some of those questions. So one of the very first questions was, what's the criteria for stops? Concerns with in-town and rural stops, do you have a criteria? And BPS, we are revising our criteria for rural stops particularly, excuse me, using from the base criteria that Transpar gave us during their routing process. We are updating that right now, and I'm going to kind of hit the highlights of that to reflect really a lot of the concerns people have brought to us through emails and phone calls and even at the board meeting last time, to ensure consistency, transparency, and student safety. And one that Transpar did not have, which you'll find again in my response, is uniquely how you address weather. Because of weather in the upper Great Plains and some of those things, we wanted to make sure we had some specifics dealing with weather and stops that we could pass on to our bus drivers, because who's on the bus when those decisions have to be made? A bus driver. So we thought we need to empower bus drivers with good guidance. So the revised criteria that I can tell you we're working on now focuses on safety, kind of safety first. That is dealing with visibility at the stop, like how many feet of visible roadway do we have on either side of a stop. I can tell you, due to a parent concern, before school started, we moved a stop because it was kind of between two hills, and it didn't seem like the best location based on a reality, maybe on a map, but it wasn't in reality. So we did some of those modifications. We're also taking into account roadway conditions, hills, bridges, curves, those things. Lighting, if available, and we know that's a challenge in a rural area, but where we can find ambient lighting. And then where we can find shoulder pull-off areas. If we can find something that accommodates that, that would be something we look for. The next criteria is this proximity and accessibility. We are making some revisions due to parent or patron feedback, due to confusion about intersections. We have a lot of intersections, I think I mentioned this, that have the same name in two different locations. So we've revised and begun revising Transpar's guidance to say, if we can, let's use a real student's physical address. If we have a student who's riding that's in the center of a congregate group of kids, well, let's use that address. Everybody knows that's, 111 First Street, that's Jeff's house, we can meet there, right? So that's preference. But then after that, we kind of work out to another physical address, maybe, again, a place that has some of those safe locations. And lastly, if we need to go to that intersection, but again, intersections with controlled stops. We'd like those preferable. So we've put those into a kind of a ranking criteria or preference. In the rural areas, we begin to modify and look at our walking distances. We know in town that walkout's a half mile. That's what we've used for elementary schools, right? So a half mile walkout, that could be to your school or to your bus stop. We use that same walkout to a bus stop location. In the rural areas, we're looking at revising that target to equal or less than 0.25 of a mile for elementary or 0.35 for secondary, just to make some revisions on that and use that as guidance when we're setting stops. And again, we want to cluster stops. If you look at some of the maps I know you've asked for and I provided, you can see geographic areas with little dots representing kids. We're trying to cluster those around kids. And I would say that's why some stops are moving AM to PM. 60% of our riders ride both AM and PM. 40% of our riders choose one or the other. So we have AM stops that cluster of kids moves compared to PM stops. So we tried not to make people walk farther than they have to because the cluster of stops moves from AM to PM. We also are looking at operational efficiency. Obviously, we want stops that don't really affect the overall ride time if we can. We want to minimize time on the bus. We want to minimize backtracking. We want to focus routes on right turns. I think you had a parent that spoke a little bit about a late bus stop last time. Really, when you look at the route, it's very much like UPS and FedEx. They try to work those around right turns because it's safer. it's safer for the bus, it's safer for the kids to just continually be making right turns in the traffic than to necessarily crossing particularly double lane highways and very busy roads. So we're going to try to work on that. And then again, focusing on student density. Where are those stops the best for the kids that are riding? The last three components are winter weather adjustments. We're already working at, and some of our transportation team, Mr. Middlestead, is out looking for alternate stops that maybe say, hey, during winter conditions, we need to be prepared to move a stop. And then powering our drivers to say, you have the authority, if winter conditions warrant, to move a stop maybe from an intersection that has large amounts of snow in it. You know how that works with winged out snow. Move that to a residence, move that to where we have a cleaned out driveway, and making sure we articulate that with our drivers. And then obviously on the most extreme conditions, when Jeff for some reason hasn't called off school and we have winter weather in our area, empowering our drivers, say if you need to slow the route down, if you need to take longer time, if you need to make some more stops, that's okay. We trust our drivers to do that on the fly while they're driving. And just being really clear that we're empowering our drivers to make those decisions. Second to last one is community coordination. Again, I think we need to continue to work with our families, but then also Burley County Sheriff's Office, Bismarck PD, Burley County Highway Transportation, just to say, what are the accessible roads? Which ones do you believe have safety concerns, and have an open line of communication with them. And then lastly, review and adjustment. I can tell you we're reassessing stops, have been for the last 5 weeks. We'll continue to do that. If we have incidents on routes or in locations, just like we do in town already, if we have a preponderance of accidents at any one location, we would begin to question, are we there? Are we causing it? Should we not be there? We'll do that with these stops. And then just continue to have a feedback loop. I think you'll hear a little bit later in the agenda today about the plan forward. It continues to have an openness to our parents about how we do that. So that was kind of 6 key components to a criteria for stop locations. Any questions on that one before I go to the next one? Okay, another question we had is, what are we doing for safety and how are we fixing it? Again, as I just said, we've adjusted and added stops where those things concerned. Transpar is coming back in October to reevaluate and reassess our routes as they sit now, to provide us some update on what they think any new adjustments should be. And so we're looking forward to that. As we just talked about, the updated stop criteria, which we've been working on. And then again, I'm asking families to help. I mean, I used to live in Ellendale. I lived by a fire hydrant on my corner. And to some degree, I took that neighborhood responsibility to clean my fire plug out during the winter, right? In Mandan, I lived right by the communal mailbox, and it was an assumed responsibility of my address to keep that mailbox clean. And so everybody could get their mail. And I would ask kindly to our parents and our community that there's some of that too with stops. We know where kids congregate in town or out. Just like we do with our fire hydrants, just like we do with our mailboxes. If we know this is a congregating area for our kids, that becomes a little bit of a community norm too. How do we do that in neighborhoods to take care of our kids in our neighborhoods and provide a little safer location for them to gather before and after school? Next question, are we going to take accountability for school accidents, or if an accident occurs? I think I know student safety is our highest priority. I would say I have that concern in many areas, not just transportation. It doesn't matter the safety and security of the doors of our schools. It doesn't matter if it's strangers and people coming in our building. I get to meet all the sex offenders before they get access to our schools. It's many different ways that we have to ensure safety of our kids. This is just one more. And I think by being proactive when we're answering people's questions, addressing concerns, we are being proactive to ensure student safety. The question was, why not test the changes in one feeder? You kind of heard we've even dual credit and AP. Those started in one school, right? They started in a small version, then they built out to what they are today. We see that in many things. I would tell you the transportation system is too interconnected with assets coming across the town that they don't just work in the Century feeder, they don't just work in the Legacy feeder. They're crossing those feeders to provide an efficient and reliable service. To do that in one location last year, let's say spring of last year, and say, we're gonna just change the Legacy feeder start time to a 2-tier, would have been very confusing and disruptive. So we did not entertain that idea. I respect the idea of trying a test in other ways, but in this one, that was much too complex to try. So we went with the idea, like, we're just gonna inform people for a good year before we make that move, and hopefully people can ask questions and adapt. Why haven't we talked about, the question was asked about reaching out to law enforcement, public works. We have a good partnership with them. Could we have engaged them more? Maybe. I don't know what they would have offered, but we continue to engage with them now. We do continue to talk to them, and how can we better improve our system? The question was asked about, what about changing bell time back to 8:30? Would we do that? I think, just to be real transparency, we're going to review attendance, tardies, community and staff feedback before making a recommendation later for 26-27. I would tell you there was thousands of hours of planning to change the time to what we are now. There wasn't an employee department. There wasn't a system really in the district that wasn't really affected by the time change. It's amazing how much it affects. Changing it mid-year is not possible. It's too many widgets. There's too many moving gears in that clock to make that change. That being said, I think going into next year, we need to look at that. And if we're going to bring forth a recommendation to alter it, even 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we'll bring that back to you mid-year so we can plan for next year. The question was about academic performance. Like, are we going to look at academic performance? I would challenge that, and Ms. Peterson hasn't given me my data yet from DPI yet, so for our spring test, but it's coming. I would be hesitant to do that, at least with the state test, because I think the state test is one snap a time. It's that 1 week our kids take our test, and there's many variables that I think we could attribute to a gain or a decline in that test besides just the bell time. So I would caution that one, but it's something we always look at. I think you guys look at test data all the time. You see all those R reports that come to you, and you get to see it, and I think that's just part of the equation. If we do move time, I will say, looking at it, and we'll ask Transpar in October, but I think if we move time, then we have to be ready to the whole system to adjust a little bit. The whole system will probably move, and we have to be okay with that. And then the last question was, how can we put 7 and 8-year-olds on winter roads in the wintertime? And again, I hope neighborhoods help each other out. The walking distances can help with the stops in rural areas, so they have very limited exposure. And I'm very happy to say that as of last week, I think all of you, if you're parents, got a message that our Stop Finder app is kind of back up and operational. We sent out instructions on that last week to parents so they could be ready. And then the new invitation should be going out to all parents this week. I think that will improve a lot when you're in rural or town to say, okay, I know when the bus is coming. I know when to send Junior outside. It's not going to be a long wait. If it takes them 2 minutes, I know they're going to be there right when the bus gets there. So I think that's an improvement that we've been waiting to get finalized. So I would stand for any other questions you have before you open up public comment.
With that, I'd open it up to board members if you have any comments you would like to share. Mr. Eastgate.
Thank you, President Hager, and thank you, Dr. Fosnot, for you and your team for putting together answers in response to the public. We certainly appreciate it. And for folks, just kind of some reminders that President Hager brought up as well when we do public comment, for us to be we're in a listening posture. We are taking notes, we're jotting it down, and we know Dr. Fosnot's doing that as well so that we can come back Following that, I did have a few comments from last time. First off, just thanking the parents, the individuals, the guardians who took time to come to our meeting to share their experience and concerns with us. I think we're all open to all the feedback that we get, good, bad, or otherwise. Also, I know we as board members, we take commentary that's not during public comment. And, it's not just here where we hear what's going on in the district and how it's going for parents. We hear it when we're out at the grocery store on our phone calls, and there's a lot of, I ask for that, when I have personal friends that call and we talk about something else. And by the way, Dan, if I could, since I have your ear for just a minute on something I want to talk to you about, bell times or whatever. And I'm like, no, please. I want to hear how it's going for you and your family. I want to hear real life stories. Sometimes just the nature of our meetings, though, the BPS, it's the BPS business meeting. And so it can appear a little bit, I think, to sometimes people that are even watching online or maybe hear oppositional from community members to the board. I just want to remind people again that we're listening, we're taking notes, that this is it's a we thing. It's a we as the district thing, not the board versus people's comments on it. If things aren't going well, we want to make improvements. I think we all, can nod our heads and agree on that. We're trying to serve in the best way we can for our students and for our families. The transportation and bell times are ones that we all share. We all have kids in the district. It's a we issue, as I said. And our board has to make some tough decisions. And sometimes underneath recommendations from the district, and as even some community members pointed out last week, Dr. Fosnot really did a great job. He's who we asked to be the head of our operations, and he's not afraid to take responsibility when some things didn't come out as great as we wanted at the beginning of the year. But I'll say, at least speaking from my chair, that we're in step with him and that we know that we're working as a district to do better. With that, just at the last meeting, we agree that we're hoping for better results, and we do continue to monitor how those operations are going, as you're hearing. Just lastly, safety is important. Getting kids, this all goes without saying, I hope, but I think it's important that board members still say it on the microphone at times, that safety is important. Getting kids to school and back home timely is important. Alleviating behavior issues after school is important. Thank you to our educators for that. And in a district our size, it's hard to say that our system is just going to be perfect for every single household out there. But we're certainly doing our best. We want it to be as good as it can be for every household. So we want to continue to hear from parents on issues that come up, whether it be bell time or transportation or whatever else is going on in our schools. We can all work towards better results for our students and families, and I think that's what we're committed to, serving on the board and for our staff in the district. So with that, thank you, President Hager, and for our community members for their public comment.
Well said, Mr. Eastgate. Ms. Presky.
Yeah, thank you. Echo a lot of what Mr. Eastgate said in his statement as well. I mean, last week was difficult to hear a lot of the concerns and not respond. And I think that is, it's a policy that we as a board have to take and listen. And in no way do I think the public should take that as that we are not caring, because this is an issue that I think we all care about. Again, student safety is number one, and it starts from the moment that they are out at that bus stop or walking to that bus stop. So it is a high priority for us. I used to live in a rural area, and I think too about what would that walk out to a neighborhood stop look like for my daughter when she was a kindergartner if this was in place. And so I get the concerns. It is a very personal and passionate issue. And so those that brought forward their concerns have the right to do so. I've also been frustrated with how this program has rolled out, but yet we as a board set a lot of trust in our administration. Not trying to meddle or micromanage. We say, yes, let's move forward with a different plan. We knew that it was necessary to move forward with something else and something different. And we put our trust in administration in how it's going to be operated. And I think that's important for the public to know as well, that we are not knowing every single detail of how a plan is going to be rolled out. A lot of lessons learned from this from the beginning. And yes, there could have been better communication with parents. There could have been a better rollout of the program. There could have been more eyes on stops in the rural areas. But again, change was necessary. And so I guess we're not perfect, those that are put in place to make a complete change in a program aren't perfect. And so I just hope the community can have some grace with us in this. And I appreciate the revisions that have been made and the continuing assessment of it. It's going to take a little bit of time, and hopefully some of the bumps can get worked out before bad weather comes in, which is hard to imagine when we're sitting here with a beautiful fall day in North Dakota. I think it's important to note that transportation, putting your kid on a bus, that's a choice. And I'm not trying to sound insensitive here, but it's a choice. There are other options of getting your child to school. And it's a perk that some districts don't offer. And as we continually look at our budget and what that 3% cap on taxation means, there may be a time where we have to really, really even dial it down further and look at other options for it. So I just think that that's also really important to emphasize. I also just want to address the tone. It really bothered me last week that, we as a board have set a dignity index, and we did that together, recognizing and hearing a speaker talk about it and saying that it was a really good way to put a measurement on respect for each other, the public's respect for what we're doing, for how we respect the public that comes to talk and visit with us. And I just want to remind everybody that dignity index was put in place, adopted by our board for a reason, that we all need to have respect for each other. And comments like, if a child gets injured, it's on you, and can you accept that? I think we're so inappropriate. None of us want a child to be injured or anything else of a more dramatic result. And we all care about the kids, and that's why we're right here today, sitting at this table. And so I just want to remind people that we do have the best interests of all of our students in mind, and that respect, it's a big thing, but we can all work together on all these issues in both ways, but we need to be respectful of each other. Thank you.
Ms. Peterson.
Thanks, President Hager. And I'm going to only speak for, because I just think that both of you, Board Member Eastgate and Board Member Preskey said it so well and touched on so many of the different things that I think we were all thinking and feeling. And the only thing that I would add is some of the comments that made it seem as if the decision is already made or before we engage in public comment or any of those. Hopefully you just really want to emphasize that is not true, that I've really appreciated last year, the stakeholder consultation. Yes, there was recognition that changes need to be made, but what those changes actually look like, I don't think any of us certainly are experts in this area. So we leaned into not only expertise, but then also listened to the community comments. And I think when you look at the survey information, and I know there were a lot of different comments about that, and it really is often, as is a lot of situations, when there's it's a 50-50 split. So sometimes you have to make really difficult decisions that are going to, maybe benefit some families and not benefit others, or benefit some grade levels or not others. And so I just really appreciate the opportunity, I think, this year to continue to engage with stakeholders through the different structures that we have in place, to listen. I think even the public comment plus the continued operations teams, and then also just the feedback we've been hearing throughout, and then not only just in the public meeting last time, but we've got lots of different calls and made a lot of different adjustments. And I hope that that the public recognizes that we're going to be taking those into consideration along with budget impacts, along with, what it looks like in terms of workforce and there's just a host of things that go into this decision. And so to assume, I can tell all of you listening right now, I haven't made a decision. There's been times where, just like, Ms. Presky said, is we've gotten to that place where it's a perk and this might be something not worth the logistical hassle. And then other times where, as an educator myself, knowing that if you take something like transportation away, you end up really diving into the absenteeism issue, and all of the people and families who rely on it struggle to get their kids to where they need to go. So I'm torn. So to make an assumption that I've made in a decision that I don't even know myself, I think I just wanted to express that I'm eager to continue to hear the feedback and look forward to the recommendations brought forth by people that I said, much more expertise than I have, and I just I really appreciate the opportunity for the district to have responded, really make some immediate changes, and then also kind of create their to-do list for what needs to be done in a rollout. In school, in education, we get a calendar year, and you don't get to redo. You can't go back. We can't go back to August and say, oh, that didn't roll out. Oh, the app didn't work. Let's start over. The kids are coming. So you only get to redo the next year, and by this time, there'll be other changes. And so I just appreciate what we did to recognize the issues, band together for changes. The entire district I really went into kind of, I don't want to say crisis mode, but really went in to answer community feedback and then have presented continued recommendations. So I just appreciate the public's response and the district's response, and then just know we're still making decisions. So it's an ongoing process. So thanks for everybody, and thanks for your guys' comments, because I think you guys said it really well. Thanks.
Mr. Lee.
Thank you, President Hager, and thank you to my fellow board members. I think it's good for us on these bigger issues to share with the public our thoughts and come from the heart. I think what we saw tonight from the superintendent was great. This is just a very small part of the work that's already been done, and it's an incredible lift. So when you have really big changes, when big changes are made, like we just made, challenges are inevitable, and nothing is ever perfect. It's certainly never perfect for each individual or individual family. So you're looking at it holistically. But this year's busing, coupled with bell time changes, did create an especially difficult situation for many of our families, leaving them scrambling at the last minute. And for that, I just want to say I sincerely apologize. It's not how I envisioned it rolling out. It's not how any of us envisioned it rolling out. As Board Member Peterson pointed out, it's in the past. We can only look to go forward and get better. But I am especially concerned about reports from rural areas where students lack sidewalks or street lights, and safety must come first. And I think that was reiterated tonight. It's on the forefront of all of our minds. I feel we can't treat door-to-door service as a mere budget line item as if it compromises student safety. So we have to really weigh those things and make sure we have our ducks in a row, and that we feel good about the plans we make. I trust our administration. I trust them to continue working with families and to review routes. Here's what I would say. I trust them to review routes using common sense, not dollars and cents as their guide right now, making whatever adjustments are needed to prioritize safety. When it comes to budgeting, we can always find cuts in other areas that do not directly affect students and classrooms. Every issue that I've personally heard involves rural routes, which is where the lack of infrastructure can make walking unsafe. And those particular areas should be our top priority. I don't think our budget restricts us from getting those routes right. I don't. But there's an urgency to fix this now before the weather turns and fix things this year so we get a clear picture of what safe, effective busing actually costs, because I do think there's an increased cost to doing things the right way. But only then can we make sound decisions about future budgets using accurate numbers rather than projections based on what could potentially be seen as a broken system. I believe, based on communication to the board, and you've seen a lot of that communication tonight, that we're headed in the right direction. No doubt in my mind. All I would say is, as a board, as a district, let's get it right, prioritize safety, focus on the real costs, and build future budgeting plans on solid data. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you, board members and Dr. Fosnot, all of you for your comments. Without kind of reiterating everything else that's already kind of been said here, it was a big change when we start talking about bell times and busings and the financial impacts that was having on our district. And I think Mr. Lee summarized it very nicely in saying that we're not going to prioritize the financial aspect, the budgeting aspect over safety. Safety is a concern. As a rural resident, I don't have streetlights. I can relate to what those families are feeling when they're out there, and you're sending out, in my case, my youngest being a fourth grader. If he was riding the bus, I can't imagine what it'd be like for him to, stand on the side of the street, and I can understand the passion, the concern that parents have. With that, I appreciate Dr. Fosnot, your focus on safety, continuing to try to get this right. I mean, we all agree, we heard it here, that the rollout wasn't what any of us would have liked to see. So again, to the community, we apologize for that. But now as we move forward, continuing to evaluate what we're doing, the process we're seeing, the routes we're seeing, and I know our administration is doing that. We're trying to get it right, safety being the number one concern. So with that, I'll move into the public comment portion of our meeting. The board recognizes the central role parents play in the education of their children and supports active parent involvement in the education process. The board's practice of public comment reflects and aligns with policy BCBA and the spirit of its intent. For classroom issues, it's best to follow the chain of command: teacher, principal, assistant superintendent, superintendent. For district issues, please reach out to Dr. Fosnot. If you do speak tonight, we simply ask that you be responsible, be helpful, and be respectful. Our BPS students deserve to have adults model the expectations that we have for them. Groups are urged to select one spokesperson. Individuals will be limited to no more than 4 minutes and will be notified with 30 seconds remaining to conclude their remarks. The board will not debate issues as presented, but we will take the matters under advisement. With that, please stand and approach the podium if you do wish to speak tonight. Okay, seeing no one, public comment is closed. Item 5, under monitoring district operations, OE5, financial planning. Dr. Scher.
Good evening, President Hager, members of the board. Tonight in front of you have OE5, financial planning. Pleased to announce that all indicators are in compliance. I'll just summarize a few things for the board and the public's consideration. Financial planning is key to maintaining and improving any business. BPS uses the following items to improve financial planning and transparency. We use monthly financial analytics. We do financial forecasts twice a year. We do monthly and annual reports for transparency for both the board and the public. We do on-time reporting for buildings and departments. We do a long-range financial plan, and then we also we're into a couple years of a budget variance and budget impact reporting for the board. Budget documents are designed to be understandable and to provide assumptions used in creating the budget for the district. BPS conducts an annual budget workshop to address any questions, concerns, or comments the board may have concerning the budget. The budget balances revenues, expenditures to adequately operate the district. Employees were compensated at a fair rate that the budget supports. The only one thing I would add to that is I'm not sure this year's the right year with everything we have going on, but with an updated strategic plan, it might be time to look at our long-range financial plan, like a refresh of that. So that would be something that probably the Operational Excellence Committee could work on maybe next year. I would, with that, I would take any questions on any of the indicators that the board might have.
Board members, questions? Not seeing any, Dr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I would entertain a motion. Ms. Peterson.
I move to find OE5 financial planning as incompliant.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Board members, any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Scher, would you call the roll?
Lee?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Presky?
Yes.
Eastgate?
Yes.
Hager?
Yes. Item B, GC3, board job description. So this will be our public reading of the board job description. The board's job is to represent, lead, and serve the citizens and to govern the district by establishing expectations for district results, expectations for quality of operational performance, and monitoring actual performance based on those expectations. The board will, 1, ensure that the results are the dominant focus of the district's performance. 2, advocate for district and the students it serves. 3, initiate and maintain effective communication with citizens and other important stakeholders, groups, as a means to engage them in work of the board and the district. 4, develop written governing policies that address A, results, the intended outcomes for the students served by the district. B, operational expectations, statements of the board's values about operational matters delegated to the superintendent, including both actions to be accomplished and those prohibited. C, governance culture, definition of the board's own work, the process it will employ, and the conditions within which it will accomplish that work. D, board superintendent relationship, the role relationship of the superintendent and the board, including the specified authority of the superintendent and the process for monitoring district and superintendent performance. 5, ensure acceptable superintendent performance through effective monitoring of results and operational expectations policies. 6, ensure acceptable board performance through effective evaluation of board actions and processes. And 7, appoint an independent auditor to conduct an annual external review of the district's financial condition and report directly to the board. That will conclude the reading of, what do we got here, GC3, board job description.
I'd move that we retain GC3 board job description.
We have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Second?
You can pick Dr. Scher, Mr. Lee, or myself. Both.
Any further discussion? Dr. Scher, could you call the roll, please?
Peterson?
Yes.
Presky?
Yes.
Eastgate?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Hager?
Yes. And how do we find ourselves with that?
I would move that we find ourselves in compliance with GC3 board job description.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Scher.
Presky?
Yes.
Eastgate?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Hager?
Yes. Item 6, matters reserved for board action. OE4, personal administration revisions. Dr. Fossett.
Yes, thank you, President Hager. This request to make a revision to OE4 was really brought to me by you. It was brought to us to me during our summer retreat. I want to just express to you my gratitude to the board for your thoughtful concern and discussion about why this needed some revision in your mind, and then allowing myself and my team to craft some modification that I'm presenting to you tonight, and so you can consider it. So thank you for that. What you have in front of you tonight is 4 different documents that are all attached at the top in your agenda. The first one is a red line version of OE4 personnel administration with the addition of item 12 at the bottom. Okay, so we that kind of is in the superintendent shall portion of this policy, and that was to prevent actual, potential, or perceived conflicts of interest involving district employees by requiring disclosure, appropriate recusal, and documented mitigation prohibiting use of position or confidential information for private gain, and maintaining records necessary to demonstrate compliance. You have that in essence, red line, blue line for you for the addition. Then your second document is actually the final with it revised in just total black line, so you can see what the final, if it would get through 2 readings after next month, what it would look like. Then you also have with you is a revised OE4 with the policy and the expectations. And that's probably where you might say the rubber meets the road. It's really showing you what we're going to do to meet that policy, that expectation. So you have a revision on page 1, adding part 12, as we just talked about. And then if you go to the absolute final page of those expectations, what you have is a new OE 4.12. You have my interpretation, which BPS will prevent actual, potential, and perceived conflicts of interest by requiring timely disclosure of outside employment, financial interest, and close relationships that could reasonably affect impartiality. And then I do provide just a quick definition of conflict of interest. And really the indicators which I'm offering to you to see if you would like those or provide revisions is indicator 1 is we would ensure that 100% of designated employees, and we are designating those as managers, directors, principals, and coordinators, submit a conflict of interest disclosure by October 1st annually. We've picked those out. We're already doing somewhat of a disclosure, asking people to assert any conflicts and to make them aware. We have done that to these 4 groups because they have control over district funds. So you might have a teacher in a building, but they can't spend district funds without a principal approving it. So the principal is really the controller of the funding. That's why we're saying not teachers, but principals have to do the conflict of interest. Similar to an athletic director would have control over funds, myself, or a coordinator in LDI coordinator per se has control of district funds, while the people within that department can request funds, can ask to spend funds, but they can't do it directly. Okay, so that's the rationale for indicator 1. Indicator 2, 100% of those conflict of interest disclosures are reviewed and mitigation plans are on file when necessary by November 1st annually. I would tell you that to some degree I wouldn't say to some degree, we are doing that now to a smaller subset of people. So if we expand this subset, we'd continue to do that. That is done by myself and Dr. Scher, mostly Dr. Scher, but when needed, him and I do that collaboratively. And then lastly, indicator 3. So all people are aware of conflict of interest because we do think there are times where even teachers or coaches or others could be using a business that they're affiliated with or aware of maybe. We would require annual notification on conflict of interest, and how to avoid it is provided to all employees through training. As we roll back into the school year every year, we do that extensive kind of, you review and sign off on policy. This would just be one more of those things we'd ask our employees to all be aware of, is to make sure they're watching for and mitigating conflict of interest. That was the revised change, aside from moving the old 412 to now 413.
Thank you, Dr. Fosnett. Board members, any comments? Ms. Peterson?
Dr. Frostnut, can I just ask one question? And I
Yeah.
think I know the answer, but maybe we could clarify for the public. But I know that the board and yourself and Dr. Scher all have conflicts of interest policy as well, and we just revised that, kind of post-audit. Where do we find that? Is that in our board governance policy? Because that would be dictated in another area than this, correct?
We have added that, yeah, it's from our last audit.
Yeah.
That would have been 2 years ago. I'm gonna get the date wrong. I'm not gonna look around. 'cause
Yeah,
it's probably
no.
telling me the date.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we had that feedback from the state auditor's office. And then we did implement a conflict of interest procedure that we just put it in place that I'm aware of. I don't recall that we put it in policy. We put it in, did we? I don't think we did.
It's just in handbooks.
Just in our handbook, okay. So it's just in our administrative handbook that we're gonna implement that practice in compliance with what the auditor requested. This really firms it up
Yeah.
even more. It expands the groups that we are looking at, asking for that disclosure to be announced, and then also requiring a training that we don't do for all staff now. So indicator 3 really reaches all staff that we don't address now.
Yeah, no, I think that this does a really good job, and just wanted to kind of make sure that we also then have to fill out a conflict of interest and yourself, so I just didn't want it to seem like we're being excluded from this policy, because we also have to dictate that. So, no, I really appreciate these changes. Thank you.
Mr. Lee.
Thank you, President Hager. Just so I'm clear, there's no changes or new administrative policy that goes along with this 412 interpretation and indicators? This is pretty much it?
Board Member Lee, I didn't change the administrative rules now. Now, if you adopt this and they need some revision, I could go there and revise those. I can revise those quickly, but administratively, I think those echo the similar things. They're saying the same thing, except for the training part. The training part is new in this compared to what is in the administrative manual.
So when you speak of reviewing, and there could potentially be a lot of these, you said it would be you and Mr. Scher that would review them, right?
Yep.
Is there any mechanism where the board would be allowed to review or brought in on a review?
I hadn't considered that. I think if there was ones, if you wanted to see the ones that we thought there was a conflict, maybe we could tighten up that so you didn't have hundreds of them. You could have, the ones that we say, here are some that you should be aware of that were a potential conflict of interest we've had to mitigate. I don't know. I think if you wanted to see them, they're probably also a public record, so it's not like they're private.
Right. Okay. I'm just thinking as we had talked through this over the years, there should be a point where the board is notified. Maybe it's at a higher level, an administrator or something, that there's a potential conflict here, and it might not be a problem, but it's something that the board should know about,
Yep.
so they're not caught off guard. That would be my only concern, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
If you wish, I would glad to, not working lunch or working meeting, you might say, work with Mr. Scher to see if there's something. Honestly, I don't know if that was how many we reviewed this year. Again, how many he had to mitigate, actually required a mitigation, but we could look at that and see if there's a summary document we could provide the board, maybe even part of OE4 reporting, that we could provide you a summary document of that.
I think anything like that would be good. It's, as you pointed out, it's most likely anything you're reviewing is a public document anyways.
Right.
So the more the board's informed on those situations, I think, the better.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. So with that, do we need a motion, or we do the motion when we come back next?
I believe you need a motion that you just had first reading.
Okay. So I would look for a motion.
All right, I will move to approve the revised coherent governance operational expectations policy, OE4, personnel administration, and the revised supporting indicators as presented for first reading.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Scher.
Eastgate,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Preskey,
Yes.
Hager.
Yes. Takes us to B, final approval for the fiscal year 26 budget and certification levy.
Yeah, you're at that point. Board members, you've been working on this since spring. It takes a while to get a budget built, but please remember that. And then just for the sake of the audience, you received public comment at the last meeting on September 8th and took that into account as we've made final revisions to the budget. And tonight before you, what you have is you have the final budget document, which Dr. Scher and his staff have made. And then you also have a certificate of levy in front of you that are kind of all under this one section. We're providing the final 25-26 revenue expenditure budget for you to consider and to approve. I am asking for one motion just on that part of this this item in our agenda. And just for the sake of those listening, our expenditure budget for this this year is $221,036,605. And then the other half of the work in this item is then after your action on the budget, I would ask the board to consider a motion approving the 25-26 certificate of levy, and that resolution is included in that document.
Thank you, Dr. Fosnot. Board members. Mr. Eastgate.
Yeah, thanks, President Hager. As Dr. Fosnot said, this is something that we've been working on a very long time. We had it put in front of us at a budget or at a workshop, and we had a chance to hear from the public at the last meetings with that. Unless there's other discussion, which can come on, but we could. I'll make a motion to approve the 25-26 budget.
We have a motion. Mr. Lee.
I'll make a second with comment. I was okay till you said the number. So I do think it's important to recognize we're not just approving this budget because it is a big number, right? I mean, we do look at everything. 85% of the budget is employees. I think it's important to point out to people that they understand 85% is employees. Those are salaries. Those are families. Those are people that buy houses. They hire your plumbers and roofers, and that money gets recirculated in and around Bismarck. So although it's a big number, when we look at our employees, we're more than proud of our employees and that we pay them fair. I've always said I'm not going to say we overpay them. I'm not going to say we underpay them. So my term is fair. I know there's always room for improvement, but we've got a great system. But yeah, a lot of work has gone into this budget. This is much improved over the last few years. The first few years I was on, we work on this a lot longer and see numbers a lot sooner. I'm very happy with the way that we get our numbers, how soon we get them. I can't say enough about Dr. Scher and the work he does, because it's a huge district, it's a huge lift, and there's a lot of things to really look through and figure out together. So yes, I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Presky.
Yeah, I just also want to comment on the budget as a whole. I think a lot of hard work has gone into this, and it's mainly, we as a board have had, in our workshops, had conversations about kind of where we wanted to see the budget, what kind of line. We have expectations, and then you add into that what the legislature has done with doing a 3% cap on the dollars that are levied. I mean, I can say that you look at the dollar amount that's brought in because of property tax valuation increases, and I just want to emphasize that a growing community, taxable valuation increases when you have a growing community. And when you have a growing community, it also takes a lot more services and a lot more dollars to provide those services to the people who want them. And we also, as a board, really recognize that there's so many more needs out there that weren't achieved in this budget, and know that we have, there's going to be a heavy lift and heavy ask of our community of what's important to them as we move forward after this budget is set. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Presky. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. Dr. Scher.
Lee,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Preskey,
Yes.
Eastgate,
Yes.
Hager.
Yes. Certification of levy.
And I would mention, just to add, that levy, even though your motion is going to ask dollars, because that's what you need to do, it does equate, we believe, to 107.19, which has remained constant for the last 7 years, I believe, across BPS.
Mr. Lee.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the certification of levy as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Scherer.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bresky,
Yes.
Eastgate,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hager.
Yes. Item C, Bull Authority request for track and field replacement. Dr. Fawcett.
Oh, yeah, this is a unique one. This is coming to you from the Bowl Authority. And you realize the Bowl Authority is made up of us, to some degree, BPS. It's also inclusive of Bismarck State College. You have representation from Bismarck Parks and Rec. You have representation from the University of Mary, all vested partners that have spent years, maybe longer than I've been in the great state of North Dakota, have seen that property and shepherded it through its development and its growth, and really became, I've always known it as the shining star of really track and field in this great state of North Dakota. We as a group meet throughout the year on occasion, and Mr. Eastgate and Mr. Lee sit on that authority for you as members. So does Dr. Scherer and myself. And I just want to bring forward to you a request from the Bowl Authority. So collectively with those other representatives and ourselves, we just have come to a realization that the Bowl needs some facility work. And the recommendation that the Bowl Authority has been talking about for well over a year is just the state of the track condition, and really not just the top layer that people see. Okay, you're at the game Friday night, you see the top layer, it looks great. It's really the what's underneath the track and how that's maintaining. We've seen some degradation to that over the last couple of years, particularly this last winter, more than we expected. And so as we've been watching that and knowing the age of the track is really coming to its maturity, really to its full lifespan, and just for awareness, the track was built in 1997, and it was resurfaced in 2013. And then as we talk about the need to do a lift of that track and really bring it up, replace not only track surface, but the asphalt underneath. We've also talked about the end of life for the turf itself. So the Bowl Authority, looking at those over the last month, is asking you as a Bismarck School Board, would you be willing to approve holding the dollars, holding the funds, bankrolling that project for the Bowl Authority, and using some of the I want to say power's the wrong word, but we can move a little faster than higher ed on some of these things, so we can make some of these things work to address the needs at the Bowl. Would you be willing to do that work? And I'll let Dr. Scherer speak to the components that he's recommending tonight to do that. You have two parts. You have state aid certificates for indebtedness, in essence carry the debt, but also to look at the school construction loan fund to enhancement program to help get some low interest on that. Before I hand it off to Dr. Scherer, I want maybe the people watching to understand that this project is not borne on us. Really, the Bowl Authority has the funds to pay for this. They are 100% from the sale of the suites at the Bowl, from the sale of suites over the duration of this debt, and from the sale of other fundraising that the Bowl Authority does to help keep that gem of a facility in our community running. It's really about us just carrying the debt for them as they pay us back, so they can do the project this next summer. So it's not BPS dollars per se, it's Bowl Authority dollars. We're just helping them carry the debt so they can get the project done. So I'll hand it off, if that's okay, to Dr. Scherer to explain the mechanism.
Thank you, Dr. Fosnot. So essentially what it is exactly that. We'd have to go out for a bond. It's over $1 million, so it has to be a public bond, which I think is a good thing because it's a public sale that we can then go to the market. The Fed's dropping a quarter point, and rumors of maybe doing that a couple more times would be good for this. And you can see this would come back for the board's approval. We're projecting the end of November. Now, if our financial advisor says we should wait one more month, we can do that. We have some flexibility with that, but we'd bring it back then for the board approval, either the last meeting in November, or we could let that slide a little bit. So that's the first thing to essentially get the dollars. The second thing is really a bond credit enhancement program that should help us with two things. It should help us with those that are looking because it's backed by the state of North Dakota, and also should help us with the rates also. So it should bring more people in. They want to lend us money, and then it should also help with our rates. So those are the two documents for consideration in front of you. To move forward, we definitely do need the first one approved. The second one is really a board decision. I would recommend that we do the second one also, but we don't need the second one to move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Scher. Board members. Ms. Presky.
So question, does doing this impact our chances of bonds in the future that we may need?
No, the level that we can borrow is, I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say about 400 million, unless you want to do 402 million. But I just don't, our needs just aren't that. Would be way under that. So our borrowing capacity, what I'm trying to say is our borrowing capacity is way more than we'd ever need in our district.
Thank you, Dr. Scher.
Just one clarifying, I had to read this several times to understand, and I read that line, repayment will not be made, will be made by the Bowl Authority. So thanks for providing that context. You talked about the timing of our approval. What would be the timing of this entire project?
It's a great question. So essentially, if the board would approve tonight, what we would do is get on the schedule. And the thought is, we just learned, I just learned today that we were going to start actually the day after the state track meet, but we were actually hosting the state soccer tournament. So either the state soccer tournament will be housed at Sanford Sports Complex, which would be very adequate for it, or we delay it by a week. Mr. Zittelman wants to move it to Sanford because he wants, with the variable of weather and everything else, we don't know. We have plenty of time to get it done in the summer, but we don't want to take any chances. So it would start next summer, the day after state track, this upcoming summer, and we would be ready with everything by football season.
Thank you, Dr. Scher. Good question, Ms. Pearson. Mr. Eastgate.
Thank you, President Hager. Just for some other context for other board members, since Mr. Lee and I sit on the Bowl Authority as well, I think our BPS staff and Ross Warner, who's up there working for the Bowl, but I know Mr. Zittelman and his team in the past have just done a great job maintaining that place, and Dr. Hauser before that as well, and just making sure that they've done patches, they've done what they can do to be very cost effective with it. And from what we know and what we're being told is it's at end of life. And it's one of those things that we know as a major user group up there, and a number of different activities that the Bowl, like Dr. Fosnett said, it's a pretty bright star for our community and for our district. And it hosts a wide range of things. So I think it's something that I definitely support. Like we said, it's the Bowl Authority is making this request, this recommendation. And I think it's time. It's time for us just to kind of step up again as a key partner up there. And BSC's been a great partner working with us on it as well. But the state track meet, we talk about it. I mean, what a great economic driver for our community as well. And we want to be able to continue to showcase that, hey, when you're in Bismarck, you're going to get a top-notch activity and event and everything else that goes with that, not just for the athletes, but for everybody that's there. So, I mean, there's just a number. That's just one event. Mr. Lee knows about that event better. But it's just the Bowl is just a great venue for folks. And so I thank you to our team for being very conscious of us being fiscally responsible. And also, just like I said, I think it's time for us to do these improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Eastgate. Any more comments, or I'd entertain a motion? Ms. Presky?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, just real quick. I do want to point out, because some people don't know, this is an athletic facility and stuff. It's not our money. It's the bowl authorities going to pay for it. It's great, but just think about that state track meet and those 3-4 days that teams come in. That's Class A and B, so it's every school in the state. And the economic impact that has on us locally is profound. It really is. It brings a lot of dollars into Bismarck. It does showcase the bowl, and it is something that we need to keep that a great facility to keep that track meet coming here, because that's one that it's the perfect place for it, and everybody knows it. And as long as we keep up with it, we'll keep getting them here. So.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Ms. Presky?
Okay, I'll move that we approve the attached resolution providing for the sale of state aid certificates of indebtedness.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Scher?
Presky,
Yes.
Eastgate,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Hager.
Yes. So there's a second part there. Ms. Peterson?
With the recommendations and the comments that we said, I think that it would be necessary to also approve the resolution electing to participate in the school bond credit enhancement program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Scher?
Eastgate,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Presky,
Yes.
Hager.
Yes. That brings us down to the, I guess school visits. Anybody have a school visit to share this time? It's a little early maybe, so. Down to the consent agenda. What are the wishes of the board? Mr. Eastgate?
President Hager, I would move that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Dr. Scher, roll please.
Lee,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Presky,
Yes.
Eastgate,
Yes.
Hager.
Yes. Superintendent's report, Dr. Fosnot.
Just a couple last things. Reminder of your North Dakota School Board Association convention coming up on Thursday, October 9th, a law seminar. I'm not going to remember right off the top of my head who's signed up, but you should have been hearing it from Mrs. Estabrook about those registrations. And then on Friday, October 10th is the convention, and I would encourage you to check your email. I just got one today about there's a change to the Constitution that NDSBA sent out today, just to make you aware. So if you're taking the role of a delegate and casting a vote, just maybe you want to check that and be aware of those constitutional revisions coming. Any questions on that? Okay. And the last thing I have is just kind of a written statement dealing with transportation. I think for those that were concerned last time, like we were going to have public comment and it was going to kind of go away, I'm committing that we're going to talk about it. As we've already said, it's something we need to continue to dig into. We need to continue to talk about it. What's the path forward? And so I just prepared a few statements today, and if you bear with me, I'll just read them because I wrote them over the weekend. So President Hager, members of the board, members of the community, over the past few weeks, I've heard personally and through hundreds of emails, calls, and conversations and concern raised by our new bell time and transportation system. Family, staff, students have been candid about the difficulties they've experienced, and I want to begin or reaffirm tonight by thanking everyone for your shared feedback. Your voices matter, and they're shaping our next steps, as Ms. Peterson said earlier. Since mid-August, we've been working directly with families to address neighborhood stops, as we talked about tonight, challenges in rural areas, moving or adding stops where safety or access concerns were raised. I heard earlier in the meeting that we've continued refining those stops. We will continue with this collaboration, but I also need to be clear, reverting to the old system of hundreds of house-to-house stops, which would add 2 to 3 minutes per stop, adding hours of time to routes and making the system financially unsustainable at the present time. Neighborhood stops are not a convenience for the district. They are a necessity to maintain the basic busing system we have now. Likewise, our two-tier bell system is not a luxury. It is a dramatic and necessary cost-saving measure that allows us to operate with fewer buses and fewer drivers. Without it, we would be forced to consider deeper cuts. Unfortunately, when it's 85%, as was said earlier about the budget, deep cuts do affect people. They affect people and programs in and around classrooms, student support services, and other critical areas that really nobody wants to see go. You can't mention cuts in my office without it hurting, because we really don't do anything extra. We're not doing just fluff around the edges. They're all really affecting kids. Everything we do affects kids in some way, shape, or form. While there is room to refine start times next year, as we learn from this year, families should understand too, any adjustment like moving the time to 8 o'clock or 8:05 or 8:10 would also ripple through all levels of the organization, which could mean middle school times, which now get out closer to 4 than 3:30, could be more like 4 o'clock. And is that what we want? Is that okay? I think that's future discussion. We also need to look at other measures, as this group has talked about before, and you'll be hearing about these and making recommendations for next year, like expanding walkout areas. I was with the large 9 schools last Friday. An example is West Fargo has a mile for walkout area, and for elementaries, we have a half. They have a mile 0.5 for middle schools and 1.75 for high schools. Our walkout area for high schools is a mile. So nearly double that, which are not provided bus service in West Fargo. To reduce routes and free up resources to, in essence, kind of backfill some of the concerns we have with safety in our rural areas could take reducing or increasing walkout areas inside of our community. There's some schools that charge. I thought it was just Dickinson, but I would say that's Dickinson and Jamestown. Jamestown charges for in-town busing. So that's something we could look at and consider. And lastly, your testimony actually from somebody who spoke in front of us that talked about other communities. And I think Board Member Presky mentioned it tonight, that Minot and Williston have a much less, if not any, zero in-town busing. I think that's something we have to consider. Is that a luxury? Is that a perk that we just can't sustain into the future? The financial reality is stark. Last year, and this is on your financial report you approved last month, the BPS spent $5.1 million on student transportation and an additional $1.2 million just for student activities. Over $6.3 million on busing and transportation. The state reimbursement for just the regular ed part, because they don't reimburse us for sports, the regular ed reimbursement was just $1.1 million. That equates to a state reimbursement of 21.6% of actual student transportation costs. State per pupil funding has increased by just 2.5% and will increase only by 2.5% next year. And as was shared today, local spending caps due to that legislation has capped us at 3% for local taxation. All those in totality limit our flexibility on what we can do in the coming years. Currently, BPS pays roughly $3 million annually to Harlow's for our contract for student transportation. As we head into a new request for bids or for proposals, that RFP is going out as we speak. We're talking about it and getting it ready. I will guarantee you with my last breath that we can expect those costs to escalate. They're not going to stay where they are now. They're going to be increasing. All those are things we have to look at in the future. Those are all things that we have to take in consideration as we move forward. What I can promise you is in October, as I said before, Transpar is going to be here to reanalyze routes. We're going to continue adjusting stops for safety when necessary. We're already collecting attendance and tardy data, and we will be garnering educator and parent impressions of how they think both those changes have occurred and what they think the future holds. November, again, we'll send out some surveys for people to respond. We'll review the findings from Transpar. We'll continue to look at the data, and hopefully by that time we have some feedback on what the new RFP is going to tell us. What are the costs going to be for whatever we decide to do for the future? And then December, you can expect myself and Dr. Scher, maybe members of our Operational Excellence Committee to give you a recommendation. Based on those things, what do we see as the best step forward? some of the things I shared in this statement were considered last year. We had walkout areas as discussed. We talked about charging even over a year ago. We just said that wasn't the best first step. Let's try the first steps. And again, my apologies for making errors on the first step, but maybe we need to continue with that refinement to get to a better, perfect place. So all that leads into 2026 and whatever we decide to do, planning for that change. Because as I stated before, it's thousands of meetings, it's thousands of decisions, it's a lot of changes. None of those happen instantly and overnight. So we need to prepare. I do want to affirm tonight that I've been listening. I think we collectively, board and all of us, understand the stakes, and we're committed to making informed, thoughtful decisions. These aren't easy, but they're necessary to keep BPS strong and viable and providing the best service for our kids and helping to ensure all of our kids can succeed. So I thank you. Thank you for being patient with me and my team as we've worked through this, and hopefully families and staff continue to be patient as we navigate those as well. So I would just stand for any questions you might have.
Board members, any questions? Okay, seeing none. All agenda items have been considered. I declare this meeting adjourned.